Again, you can be a manager, a supervisor, or a leader, or you can be all three of these. I want you to become a leader, whether you're a supervisor or a manager now. In fact, I'm going to give you a role model to follow. This guy continues to surprise the world again and again and again. His name is Steve Jobs, and every few years he pulls off a miracle because of his amazing leadership skills. Steve co-founded Apple Computer when he was a teenager. He became CEO, and then he was fired at age 30 by his board of directors because he received a vote of no confidence from them. Then, in 1997, Apple was struggling. In fact, they were getting very close to bankruptcy. So, as a last desperate attempt to keep Apple from going under, they hired Steve back and put him back in the CEO position, hoping that since he co-founded the company, he could pull a rabbit out of a hat and do something. And he did. His first day back as Apple's CEO, he did something that people thought was rather bizarre. In fact, they thought he'd lost it again, and some people expected him to get fired again because of this. He settled a long-standing lawsuit with Microsoft. The lawsuit had been going on for years and years and years. The reason he settled that lawsuit quickly is because with Apple teetering on bankruptcy in 1997, Steve knew, as a leader, that not only did Apple not have the resources to fight this very expensive battle against Bill Gates and the 800-pound gorilla that Microsoft had become, but he also knew that Apple could never win. So Steve intentionally lost the battle in order to win the war. As an incredibly business-savvy leader, the war he immediately chose to fight was to completely reinvent the entire Macintosh line of computers. And you may remember at this point, Apple computers went from being the standard beige color to bright blue and green and orange colors. They were renamed iMacs, and their laptops were renamed iBooks, and the first models were an unusual curvy designer shape, and immediately the cult-like following that Macintosh was famous for became even stronger, and suddenly Steve Jobs was a hero. Then, in the year 2000, he did something else that caused people to doubt his leadership. He took Apple into an industry where they had 0% market share. And not only did Apple know nothing about this new business, but the existing competitor, who was way ahead of Apple, had over 70% market share. That leader was a company called Creative Labs, and the industry was MP3 players. And the rest is history. Within about a year, Apple's iPod had seized over 70% of the market share. And now everybody thinks Steve Jobs is a genius. And this is why he's often referred to as a visionary leader. He is currently the closest thing we have to a Henry Ford, or a Thomas Edison, or an Alexander Graham Bell. And he keeps doing this. Just look at the iPhone, and the way Apple is changing the cell phone market. Everybody at Apple is now looking up to him and saying, "What are you going to do next? Because we're with you 110%. Why? It's not because he's a great manager, but it's because he's a great leader. People are inspired by this guy, and they're excited by him. He's successful as a manager because he's a great leader, and that's what I want you to be.